now watching Chopping It Up with Roger Cador and Perry White.
Monday morning, and you know what time it is. It is time for Chopping It Up with Coach Roger Cador. And, of course, he sits to my right. He's the man, the myth, the legend. He's Roger Cador. I'm Perry White. And my man on the board, Garrett Edgerson. And we got Aaron in here today. That's right, getting us right for social media. And good morning to everybody out there. Be sure to hit that subscribe button right there underneath the video. Be sure to go get this book, Against All Odds. We talked about it in our last show about how Coach came up with the concept of the book about his life and all the obstacles and the goals that he accomplished. And, Coach, it's good to be here with another episode with you.
It's good to be with you, big guy.
Coach was trying to beat me up before the show, so I'm gonna just let y'all know. Hey, I was almost had a black eye before the show. But Coach, how was your weekend, man?
I was going to give you a knuckle sandwich.
A knuckle sandwich. That's old school right there.
Old school.
Yeah.
Weekend was really good. I got to do two things. Got to watch Little League baseball and watch Jackson State versus South Carolina State.
Talk about Little League baseball. El Segundo, California, getting a victory in the United States Championship, beating Texas 6-1. First of all, winning a United States Championship before we go on and talk about the overall championship. But to be able to be the best team in your country first, how much does that mean?
It means a lot because that's where I think the organizers went to that format. It wasn't always that way. It was one championship, one. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But when they went to the FAR International Championship and the American Championship, I think it fits into what we are doing in the world today. Everybody gets a trophy.
Yeah.
Sort of stuff. But you get the international team get to celebrate for winning, then the American team gets to celebrate. And then they play for all the marbles.
And they win all the marbles 6-5 and win. Overall, they're the world champions, basically. International champs, world champions. And we've seen it flip-flop internationally. The American teams, traditionally, we've seen seem to have had trouble against some of those international teams. When you look at American baseball to international baseball, especially when you play at that championship level, what are some of the differences that you've seen that sometimes put those international teams over the top on American teams? And you wouldn't typically would think that would happen considering how deep a baseball run in America.
Well, the thing is, when you get teams out of California and Texas, what I've seen historically, they're going to be a little bigger and stronger. And I think that makes them more capable of beating the international team. Normally the team from Taipei, Japan, China, and Japan are going to be strong competition. And over the last few years, Curacao has done a really good job. They've got a good program going down there where they're developing kids with their Little League programs.
And for you, what seems to be the most exciting thing for these kids once they get to this level and get an opportunity to get there?
That they do the fundamental things right. That's basically what I look for. And it tells me that they've been drilled well, coached well, as they were able to execute the fundamental.
Panama and Cuba, your two teams, man, what did you think about their showing?
They did well.
Yeah.
Cuba didn't do as well as I thought they would, but it's always tough when you're in there for the first time because it's a learning curve. They didn't have anybody before them to show them the way. So now they'll be a lot better going forward.
I got to ask a question when you talk about you as a legendary coach, but bringing it all the way down to coach these kids to this level, how hard do you think it is for some of these coaches to try to remain very, I guess, pleasant in the process of coaching kids up, especially with all the distractions, the attention that they're getting, and so many things that can ultimately get a kid, especially in today's time with a short attention span, to keep them focused on the prize? That's got to be hard for a coach dealing with these kids at that age.
I got to think it's probably harder for the coaches in America than outside of the country. Outside of the country, these kids are different. They have different lifestyles. Kids from Japan and Taipei, China, Taipei, or Korea, whatever. Taipei, China?
Chinese Taipei.
Chinese Taipei. I think, and Cuba, and Panama, and Venezuela, and Curacao, their parents help the coaches drill in them to be good. I mean, this thing is more of a lifestyle. In America, it's a lot different. Those kids have other things that they can do on a daily basis, but not those kids. I've been in some of those countries, so I know, and there ain't a whole lot that they're going to do other. Can I tell a story?
Please.
I was in right outside of San Juan, Puerto Rico, recruiting, and I went because I love getting there early to the park before teams get there, because you see things that you normally don't see. You know, if somebody come in early and work out, you get to see. Well, I saw a gentleman with 3 kids, with a bucket and 3 sticks, and he walked. And what he had in the bucket, you know what shell corn is, huh? You from Arkansas, corn. Corn, yeah. When it gets hard, they shell it and they feed the pigs or the cows or the chickens or whatever. He had the corn and this kid had a stick and he was throwing and the kid had to hit the corn.
That is a lot of hand-eye coordination.
Beautiful. And I sat there and watched him do that. Not one word was said other than he might have motioned to him what he wanted them to do, and they did that for so many times. Then he took him to the field, and he hit some ground ball. And then not a lot said, motion only. And I'm just blown away with the fact that it was primitive in many people's mind, but it was not very primitive, because I grew up swinging a broomstick and the top of a bottle. Back then, that's what bottles were popular, and we would get the top of the bottles, and we had to hit them. And if you heard some of the great players in yesteryears, they would say the same thing, that they had a broomstick and they had to hit bottle tops. If you saw Willie Mays back in the days in the city, on the streets of New York, he had a broomstick swinging, and it was a softball, but that's what he was swinging, a broomstick. So those are the things that happens in countries other than America.
The simpler things when you have lack of resources.
Yes.
There's a guy from where I'm from in Palm Bluff named Basil Shabazz. They credit him as probably one of the, if not the best athlete to ever come out of high school in the state of Arkansas. But he had world-class track speed, still has records to this day. But he talked about, they asked him now that he got older, how did you train to get so fast? He said, simple. I used to learn. I taught myself how to run down the railroad track on the actual rail to keep my speed and my balance. And I was like, you know, who thinks of that? You know, you hear about in Florida a lot of times that they have to chase rabbits.
Yes.
You know, so it's the simplest things that can actually give you that help you get that athleticism out of you and get that enhance your agility. So that's interesting.
Herschel Walker did the same thing growing up in rural Georgia. He used to run when the train came. You'll be surprised. Reggie Jackson used to go to the train track and throw rocks. That's how he developed a strong arm. It's a lot of simple things. And I tell parents in those countries when they say, I said, have your kid go get a bunch of rock and throw them in the river. Throw them as far as they can. Those are because I know they're not going to have access to baseballs. But you could throw rocks. All day, every day.
All day, every day.
And so I give them things that are feasible for them to get their kids better, because you're going to have to throw and run before and to play baseball.
You talk about young people being able to enhance their talent and abilities, sometimes using the simpler things, but just young people that are talented, period. I recently saw Nick Saban, I think, offered a 7th or 8th grader. For you, did you ever look down that deep in the talent pool, or was it a certain age for you when it came to talent, or when you started eyeing out an athlete?
I really didn't go too far back down. I didn't have the time, unless somebody pop up on my screen like a Brandon Phillip when he was 12 years old, and I mentioned to his dad that Brandon would play in the big leagues, and he played, I think, 15 years in the big league. So, but normally I stayed away from that. I really didn't go beyond ninth grade, 10th grade, because I just couldn't. I was little one-man crew for so many years, and I only had an opportunity to see who I came to see unless someone was in that area, in that same spot with that guy. Now, there's time I went to the park to see G, and I saw you.
Mm-hmm.
You see, that happened a lot. So, but other than that, that's basically I didn't dibble down too much into younger kids.
With recruiting during your time, was it a lot of, I guess, film in terms of tape being sent your way, or you had to see it with the eye test?
Or just take a chance.
Yeah.
Remember, credibility. There are so many people back then had credibility. You could trust their word. You know, and there were a lot of people who called me about kids. I couldn't go see them. I had to trust them for their word.
And then get them sent to you?
And they got sent to me. You know, and it worked. It started in the later years. You couldn't trust anybody. They probably made some false promise to kids' parents, particular mothers, and then they would try to dump somebody on you. But, that didn't work with me toward the end. I had to see something because the same people who were sending them years previous turned and started sending bad products.
That's what I was going to ask you, too. You didn't have to put a name to it, but a bust. You know, you hear like Jamarcus Russell, was this great athlete at LSU. He gets a chance to get to the NFL and just this huge bust, #1 draft pick and so much. But was there a guy as you recruited where you saw all the potential, but then when he got to your program, you was just like, what happened?
Well, there were a couple of kids that the pressure and the competition became too much. They were really good in high school, and then when you put them against that competition with kids from all over the country and internationally, it didn't work out. So it's always going to be stuff like that happening. It's not that the kid ain't good. It's just that when you took him out of his safe environment and put him in that environment when competition is fierce, things don't always work out.
Is that coachable? Can you coach a kid out of that, or that's just a mental thing that kid has to be able to grow out within themselves?
You would hope that they grow out of it themselves, but there are only so much a coach can really do, Perry. Coaches get credit for a lot, and they get blamed for a lot. But you could do some things, but when it comes to performance, the coach can't perform for the kid. You can't talk up performance. The performance have to be there, and then you give him the confidence once he puts on the performance. You got me?
And that's what I think it goes full circle back to how we got started about those coaches having to deal with those little league players with all of that pressure, going against your own country, the international teams with the spotlight. Everywhere you go, everybody's cheering you on. So it seems like you just got to go out with the best attitude you can with those kids with all the pressure that's surrounding them.
It's pressure on the kids from Curacao because they almost in a situation where they have to win. I mean, I know countries like that, what they do. They're telling the kids they got to win. And that's not fair for kids who are 12 years old. You just have fun. But they do develop a lot of big league players who come out of that small country. And it's right off the coast of Venezuela. It's not like it's a huge country like the Dominican and Venezuela. But, boy, do they play and do it right.
I like what you said about having fun. Recently, last year, I had been trying not to accept the role, but I officiate high school football, and so last year they asked me to do the Breck League, and this dealing with the kids. And what I learned was not just the fundamental part of the game, but like you said, to have fun. It's the parents, to me, that just take the fun, and those coaches, they make it more about themselves than they do about the kids. And it's really not good to watch. It's not fun, especially when you see these kids, because in the same sense of them just trying to get an IQ of the game, trying to learn the fundamentals. They're scaring them to the point to where they feel like a mistake can't happen and is almost making them not want to do what they need to do in the first place.
You nailed it. You just nailed it. They put it as if the kid feel, I can't make a mistake, I'm going to disappoint mom or dad. When they're going to make a ton of mistakes. It's a learning curve. And that's the way they get better, by making mistakes. They learn from it.
Mm-hmm.
And if we can, this is what Aaron and I, we were on the phone with the people from Breck, and the one thing I wanted to iterate that they need to have people who can teach, be the coaches of these sports who know the game and understand. It's not all about winning at that level.
Mm-hmm.
And they've made it such a big thing. I thought they did a really good commercial in the Little League where they had this parent yelling at his son for striking out and doing something. And then the other parents and the manager and the players talked about how important it was to have fun.
Mm-hmm.
We've lost. This is why parents go and fight at games. And in some instances, there are shots being fired.
Yeah.
We've got to change. We've got to change the culture of what we're trying to teach our kids, what we want them to be. And I think this is why kids get burned out, I guess. A kid shouldn't get burned out playing baseball. It should be a fun experience for them.
Yeah, you get tired of just they say the monkey on your back.
The monkey on your back.
And it takes the fun out of it because at this point, instead of learning and growing, you're too nervous to make a mistake. And what I noticed with those kids, they can go out and go full out, but they scared to go full out because they know there's going to be a mistake. And in the midst of the mistake, you got that mean parent or that mean coach sitting there waiting on you on the sideline.
I hope it ain't Roger Cador.
I told you I think I'm gonna get you to coach my son's team. When he get of age, we're trying to get to the Little League World Series. And that what bigger storyline than to have Roger Cador coaching the team to the Little League World Series? Would that be great?
I think somebody else, if I could. It's probably not a good thing for me to want to coach Little League.
You seem to have such a patience about yourself these days where, and especially with what you just said, you might be the perfect guy for the job.
Okay,
all right.
We'll talk about it.
Roger Cador giving back to the community. He loves the kids. All right, let's get ready to take a break. We'll be back with more Chop It Up with Cador after this break, okay?
Some Baton Rouge business travelers travel out of Baton Rouge. Some don't. The ones that do know BTR is all about being closer, more convenient, with non-stops and short hops to anywhere their business takes them. They also know not flying BTR means more traffic, longer lines, and wasted time. So if it's about going from driveway to runway with a lot less highway, isn't it about time you flew BTR? Baton Rouge Metro Airport. It's about time. Smart Baton Rouge business travelers travel out of Baton Rouge because BTR is so close and convenient, they're always one step ahead, rather than dead on their feet. So, isn't it about time you flew BTR? Baton Rouge Metro Airport.
Getting a letter from the IRS that you owe back taxes can be scary, but it doesn't have to be. Call Go Tax Resolution in Lafayette at 337-420-1040 today. We'll help stop garnishments, levies, and seizures immediately. With over 35 years of dealing directly with the IRS, our team of local professionals will help you pay the least amount possible. So if you owe back taxes to the IRS, you need help. Call the tax professionals at Go Tax Resolution in Lafayette at 337-420-1040. Your go-to tax relief.
Looking to get some keys made, locks rekeyed, or a wide variety of new and used safe? Then look no further than the trusted choice of Alfred Safe & Lock. Conveniently located off of Government Street in Mid-City, Baton Rouge. Trust the expert locksmith at Alfred for all of your residential, commercial, and industrial lock and safe needs. Trusted by Baton Rouge and me, Roger Cador, to protect what is yours since 1946.
Take your fun full throttle with a single touch. There are places to fly high, swing low, or make the old bell ring. Your targets are in sight. Better your game by playing ball of almost every variety. Need to catch your breath? Have a passion? We've got the place. Gear up for where the rubber meets the mud, or stir up memories of a lifetime. Reach new heights, gravitate towards something out of this world, even travel back in time. You might like a little drama in your life, or get in touch with your inner nature lover. Release some pent-up energy while you're at it. There's plenty to do beyond the swing sets. BRAC, we're more than a playground.
Hey, Coach Roger Cador here. There's something about teamwork that brings the best out in any business. When I need a tow, I call Roadrunner Towing. Roadrunner's 4 generations strong and homegrown right here in Baton Rouge.
Thanks, Coach. There's no job too large or too small. Call Roadrunner for quick, reliable, exceptional service. We don't want an arm and a leg. We just want your toes. And remember, take time each day to be a blessing to someone. Thank you.
With over 60 years of combined experience, Kathy Sherburne and Anna Barnett bring a wealth of knowledge and excitement to the framing industry. Keeping strong to the Louisiana culture, Acadian Frame and Art has numerous local artists and sports team memorabilia for their customers to choose from. Whether you're creating a gallery-like setting in your office or simply looking for some fun art for your kids' playroom, Acadian Frame and Art is your one-stop picture framing spot. Call 225-927-6129 or go to www.acadianframe.com.
Get the memoir from the legendary baseball coach from Southern University, Roger Cador, Against All Odds. Roger refused to let his past dictate his future by rising to legendary college baseball status. An inspiring story of tenacity, faith, and hope. Against All Odds chronicles Coach Cador's determination to reach higher, to want more, and to dig deeper to find the courage to chase his dreams. Against All Odds. Get yours today by Cador & Cador Publishing. You are now watching Choppin' It Up with Roger Cador and Perry White.
All right, back with more here, Chopping It Up with Cador. He's Roger Cador. I'm Perry White, my man on the board, Garrett Edgerton. We are the big three with the dream team getting it done this morning here on the show. Hit that subscribe button right there underneath the video. Subscribe, get that notification every time we go live. Go back, watch any of our previous episodes. And Coach, you said this weekend we talked about the World Series, Little League World Series. You had an opportunity to check that out. And then you said you had an opportunity to check out the Jackson State, South Carolina State game for the MEAC SWAC Challenge. I was going to say a hell of a game, but maybe not. When you look at the score, 37-7, Jackson State getting the victory. Buddy Pugh, who is a staple amongst HBCU football, he's the last of the old school. He's the last of the guys, I say, come out of your era of those guys. You know, it's just they don't make them like that anymore, where you at a school for 20 years plus years where you pretty much are the program at that point. But his team came out. They did not look too good. They came out flat. T.C. Taylor, who takes over the program for Coach Deion Sanders, of course, departed to go to Colorado as the head football coach there. T.C. Taylor played wide receiver and quarterback at Jackson State in the early 2000s, takes over the program, had been around as an assistant of the program. They named him the head coach. His first game as a head coach, and man, with his spotlight. And my biggest question was about Jackson State. Could they remain prime time without prime time? And I think they showed that to the nation, getting that victory 37-7. Buddy Pugh announced a couple days before this game that this is going to be his last season, that he's going to retire after this season. But this was not a good showing from him and his team against T.C. Taylor and Jackson State.
Well, Coach, Buddy Pugh,
Buddy Pugh.
Yeah, he survived 11 presidents in his tenure at South Carolina State. That tells you a lot about the character of the gentleman and his coaching tree. The coach who is the coach at Florida came from him.
Mm-hmm. Billy Napier.
He hired him as an offensive quarterback coach. And the thing is, he told Coach Taylor before the game that he's impressed with what he's doing. Continue to do what you're doing. And so, that's a class act. He reminds me of me. I would have done the same thing. You see a young person doing something good, you want to encourage them. Because you're going out, it doesn't matter. You know what I'm saying? As it relates to Jackson State, I saw some good things that historically I hadn't seen the last few years in the SWAC. Offensive line play, defensive line play. I saw where they were able to dominate from both sides of the football in that area. Plus, the running back, the quarterback, is who is going to give people trouble.
Yeah.
Because the wide receivers are pretty good, and they run a simple offense that spells success. They're not asking him to sit back there and throw long. They're running quick outs, quick hitters. I mean, to me, that's what it's all about. And then the offensive line doesn't have to be Jackie Slater to block a long time. You know, it's a quick blocking. The passes are quick. You get out there. So I like what I saw.
Yeah, you talk about Jackson State. They had their quarterback, Jason Brown. Of course, Southern was recruiting this kid. He came from Virginia Tech and St. Francis. He goes 26 of 30 for 356 yards, 3 touchdowns. And you talk about their running back, Mulligan, 14 carries, 109 yards, and a touchdown. He was a guy that was hard to take down. You look overall in this game, 24 first downs for Jackson State, 14 for South Carolina State. Jackson State 3 of 9 on third downs. South Carolina State 6 of 14. Both teams 0 for 1. South Carolina State 0 for 1 on fourth down. Jackson State 1 for 1. Total yardage, though, I think you start to see Jackson State with their quick tempo, no huddle, really start to wear down South Carolina State's defense. Jackson State able to accumulate 494 total yards of offense, 356 of those in the air. Of course, Jason Brown, 138 on the ground. On the other side, you saw South Carolina State struggle, only mustering up 201 yards, 64 total passing yards. Their quarterback, Corey Fields, who is a guy who just won the Celebration Bowl 2 years ago against Jackson State and Deion Sanders, did not look good in this ball game. But the bright spot for South Carolina State, I thought, were their freshman running backs. They were able to accumulate 137 yards rushing in the game. But you go back and look at Corey Fields, 7 of 20, Coach, for 60 yards.
Corey Fields struggled. I mean, he didn't show me the instinct to know where the pass rushers were. You got to feel the run. Where the pass rushers are, and he didn't do a good job there. But I think he's a guy that could do good for that offense down the road. It's just that Jackson State had better athletes, better players against their players, in my opinion.
And you know the thing about Corey Fields, he's a 6-year guy into the program.
Yeah.
You know, you would hope to see, and that's another question with you. When you have a guy a part of the program for so long and, you know, has reached success maybe midpoint in his career, early on in his career, but coming in on the backside. Last year, South Carolina State only winning 3 games. This year, at the rate that they're playing, don't look like it's going to be many wins this year, but you would hope to see an upside to it. But when you have a guy who took you to the promised land 2 years ago, and then you, instead of seeing him go the trajectory going up, you see it going the opposite way. As a coach, how do you evaluate that, and what do you do in situations like that?
Well, you make a change. You know, everything is predicated on performances and winning at this level because, you know, people expect you to win. And in order to win, players have to perform. And my whole thing is if you don't do it, we'll find somebody else who can. And that's what you have to keep that competition alive. You know what I'm saying? And now I know you don't want quarterback controversy. That's the one position they don't like having. But sometimes a change, pull a kid off, try something different, may help him to see what he's not doing just right. You got me?
And I think that seemed to be one of the things in this game. They kind of stuck with him. And you know, sometimes it can hurt a guy's confidence, and sometimes it can build a guy's confidence up. But in this ball game, Jackson State getting it done 37-7. Of course, T.C. Taylor in his first game was able to keep Jackson State prime time without prime time. That's what I was rolling with this year, prime time without prime time.
Well, we're not going to talk too much about Deion Sanders because he's not there. He's going to have his hands full in Colorado. So,
he has his first game this week against TCU, a team that just recently played for a national championship last year. So that'll be interesting. Now moving forward, you got some other games coming up this week around the conference when you look at the SWAC. Prairie View and Texas Southern, the Labor Day Classic, that's always a good one when you look at those teams. Grambling and Hampton is one I'm looking forward to. I think that should be a good matchup when you talk about programs historically with names that sell. Southern versus Alabama State. Southern going on the road to Montgomery. Montgomery is never just an easy place. Their fans are very passionate about what they have to bring in terms of being Alabama State Hornet fans. And then the rest of the games are out of conference. Alcorn State at Southern Miss, a team that a place that I feel you don't like too much if you look back at it. Bethune-Cookman headed up to Memphis. Alabama A&M going over to Vanderbilt. Central State and Mississippi Valley playing up in Chicago, the Chicago Football Classic. Good to see that back with some formidable opponents. And then up around my way, UAPB on a Thursday night game traveling over to Oklahoma to take on Tulsa. You going to try to check out any of those games?
It depends. I know this weekend I've got an event coming up in New Road, so obviously the games on Saturday may be a wipeout. Unless Saturday night I can maybe catch a game that's on ABC or Fox or ESPN, something like that. All
right, well, let's get ready to take a break, and we'll come back and we'll talk about your event that you have over in New Roads this weekend. All right, so y'all stay tuned. We'll be back more Chopping It Up with Cador.
Some Baton Rouge business travelers travel out of Baton Rouge. Some don't. The ones that do know BTR is all about being closer, more convenient, with non-stops and short hops to anywhere their business takes them. They also know not flying BTR means more traffic, longer lines, and wasted time. So if it's about going from driveway to runway with a lot less highway, isn't it about time you flew BTR? Baton Rouge Metro Airport. It's about time. Smart Baton Rouge business travelers travel out of Baton Rouge because BTR is so close and convenient, they're always one step ahead, rather than dead on their feet. So, isn't it about time you flew BTR? Baton Rouge Metro Airport.
Getting a letter from the IRS that you owe back taxes can be scary, but it doesn't have to be. Call Go Tax Resolution in Lafayette at 337-420-1040 today. We'll help stop garnishments, levies, and seizures immediately. With over 35 years of dealing directly with the IRS, our team of local professionals will help you pay the least amount possible. So if you owe back taxes to the IRS, you need help. Call the tax professionals at Go Tax Resolution in Lafayette at 337-420-1040. Your go-to tax relief.
Looking to get some keys made, locks rekeyed, or a wide variety of new and used safe? Then look no further than the trusted choice of Alfred Safe and Lock. Conveniently located off of Government Street in Mid-City, Baton Rouge. Trust the expert locksmith at Alfred for all of your residential, commercial, and industrial lock and safe needs. Trusted by Baton Rouge and me, Roger Cador, to protect what is yours since 1946.
Take your fun full throttle with a single touch. There are places to fly high, swing low, or make the old bell ring. Your targets are in sight. Better your game by playing ball of almost every variety. Need to catch your breath? Have a passion? We've got the place. Gear up for where the rubber meets the mud, or stir up memories of a lifetime. Reach new heights. Gravitate towards something out of this world. Even travel back in time. You might like a little drama in your life, or get in touch with your inner nature lover. Release some pent-up energy while you're at it. There's plenty to do beyond the swing sets. BRAC, we're more than a playground.
Hey, Coach Roger Cador here. There's something about teamwork that brings the best out in any business. When I need a tow, I call Roadrunner Towing. Roadrunner's 4 generations strong and homegrown right here in Baton Rouge.
Thanks, Coach. There's no job too large or too small. Call Roadrunner for quick, reliable, exceptional service. We don't want an arm and a leg. We just want your toes. And remember, take time each day to be a blessing to someone. Thank you.
With over 60 years of combined experience, Kathy Sherburne and Anna Barnett bring a wealth of knowledge and excitement to the framing industry. Keeping strong to the Louisiana culture, Acadian Frame and Art has numerous local artists and sports team memorabilia for their customers to choose from. Whether you're creating a gallery-like setting in your office or simply looking for some fun art for your kids' playroom, Acadian Frame and Art is your one-stop picture framing spot. Call 225-927-6129 or go to www.acadianframe.com.
Get the memoir from the legendary baseball coach from Southern University, Roger Cador, Against All Odds. Roger refused to let his past dictate his future by rising to legendary college baseball status. An inspiring story of tenacity, faith, and hope. Against All Odds chronicles Coach Cador's determination to reach higher, to want more, and to dig deeper to find the courage to chase his dreams. Against All Odds. Get yours today by Cador and Cador Publishing. You are now watching Chopping It Up with Roger Cador and Perry White.
We're back with more Chopping It Up with Cador. I'm Perry White. He's Roger Cador, my man on the board, Garrett Edgerson. And, Coach, we've talked about a plethora of things, but now the highlight of everything is you're headed home this weekend. You're headed back home over to New Roads, Louisiana, in that area, an area that is near and dear to you. There was your, what they say, your humble beginnings. And now, from a humble beginning, a life of success, legendary status, Hall of Fame, championships, been all around the world. So much of you from right there out of that area of little bitty old New Roads, Louisiana, and now the honor of being able to go back, and because of all of the success and all the places you've done and the impact you've had on many lives, you now have the opportunity to go back and have an honor to be able to speak in your hometown.
Yeah, that is really a really great honor to be able to do it. When you think about it, when in the beginning, I could have never fathomed this, you know, because of the way things were, but I always, with my life, you know what I'm saying, and this is what I try to instill in young people, that you never want to quit, no matter how many times you fail. You don't want to quit. You don't want to give up, because you know I fail a lot. You know I stumbled a lot. There is no doubt, you know that. But each time I got up, it was easier. It became easier and easier to get up every time I fell. You know what I'm saying? And so that's what young people got to understand. I know we live in a different time where the microwave system exists and everything can come so fast, but life is not that way for many people. It's about doing it the old-fashioned way. You have to be a grinder. You got to get up every day. You got to make things happen. And you have to accept, if you're going to accept good, you got to accept the bad that comes with it. That's the best way I look at it.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I think your book right here says it all, Against All Odds, that, you know, a humble beginning. I think sometime when you look back at it, you know, I think about even my humble beginnings, but, you know, when you're young, you're in positions, you look around in your situation and in your environment, and it seems bleak in terms of opportunity. You don't really see yourself as the person that you read about or that you watch on television of success that comes. And it seems like success comes from big cities, right? Seems like you got to be in the know of the hustle and bustle in order for success to be there for you. And it doesn't seem to be, because you don't see it much around you in a place that's small, a place that's slow, a place that many people aren't leaving. You know, your moms, your grandmas, your aunties, uncles, everybody's right there, right? There's not many people going off doing things to really motivate you to go off and do things. And then, you know, it's something in us that ultimately is a drive to want to be different. Something in us that just say, you know what, maybe this isn't for me. And the status quo, the people that are around you would say, this is for you. Just accept it. But it's something in us that just said, no, I can't accept it. I want to go do it. I want to try. And it don't hurt to try. Let me at least try, right? Yeah. I know if I fail, I always got somewhere to come back. But at least let me try. Don't take away the opportunity of being able to at least try, because that life of living in resentment, of saying I coulda, woulda, shoulda, and there's so many people, Coach, that live with the coulda, woulda, shoulda because they let somebody talk them out of going out to try, or they talked themselves out of not going to try because they were simply scared.
That's right. You know, the hardest thing when you come from small town America is that you don't have examples ahead of you where someone went off and did something. And until you see, this is why, before people saw someone who did wrong, people were doing what was right. The minute they saw someone do it wrong, they started doing wrong, right?
Mm-hmm.
But so it's the same thing with the bad. People saw bad and they started doing bad. I just didn't have an example in front of me where someone had gone off and did what I eventually did,
Mm-hmm.
And that made it even more difficult, but I wasn't deterred by it. I was focused. I wasn't going to let anyone stop me. I didn't let the negative and all of the things that people try to do to stop me and discourage me. I only used it as encouragement and motivation to make me go on and do it.
And sometimes the hardest part about all of that, the discouragement comes from right at home.
Yeah, and a lot. Oh, yeah.
They're
still trying to do it.
Yeah.
My sister tell me, they're still trying, and I'm saying, why are they wasting their time?
Mm-hmm.
And it's a waste of time because it ain't going to work. I'm down the road now.
And you headed back to New Road. What was that like for your siblings when you decided to break the tradition, I guess is to call it, because it's not a curse, but it's a tradition of, being a hometown guy, stay in a hometown, probably marry you and get you a local girl and start a family locally. And you say, yeah.
I can feel it. Yeah.
What you got for him, G? What you say?
That's not cool.
That's not cool.
That ain't cool.
That didn't happen to me.
Coach would be on his rocking chair right now.
Yeah.
Hey, he would have been on the parade route. We would have saw him at the parade when we went.
You're right about that. But, it probably for my sister who, when my mother passed, remember my mother passed my very first semester, me going to Southern. And then she became, she's 4 years older than I, but she became the mother. She played that role in her mind, in her opinion. You know what I'm saying? For me, I was always a loner and independent person, but, it meant a lot to her. And, she did the best she could when she could. And her and her husband provided a place for me to stay when I came home for the summer, which was good. See, because I never really needed, because I signed with the Brave after my senior year, so I was gone for the most part, except in the winter when we came home. And she was really, really a key there. She allowed me to buy time so I can get my feet on the ground, so to speak.
How was your family receptive to your success, going to college, graduating, getting the opportunity to play professional ball, and just looking at this is Roger, we didn't believe that he could actually do it. How was, because it's the mindset, like you said, there was no script on how it was to go. There was no plan to follow somebody before you. So you were writing your own book. You were going down your own journey that was unfamiliar to most people, especially from an area like that. So how receptive was that from siblings, your father, and anybody else that was around that ultimately said, you know what, go ahead and try it, but you'll be back probably?
No, I didn't say that.
But sometimes that's kind of like the mindset.
Right,
Go try it,
you'll be back.
You'll be back.
But, my father was not a talker. He was, this is the way men were to a large extent back then. They weren't going to show any affection. If you did something well, that's a job well done, boy. Mm-hmm. That's basically how they were. And that's, like I said, my mother wasn't there. My sister was there, my brother, and we were a small family. I only had one brother, one sister, so we were very small. And my brother was working. He didn't really care. I mean, it didn't matter to him.
You the baby boy, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so it didn't matter that much to him,
Because I would be proud if I say, man, my brother is
He's
in the
a lot
league.
prouder now.
Yeah.
He's proud now,
Yeah.
but back then, I don't think,
Yeah.
Again, this was all new.
Yeah.
This had never happened. No one from that particular area had done what I did.
Mm-hmm.
So all of this stuff was sort of, the thing when I went back home during the off time is the older women in the community.
What about the older women?
They really were happy.
Yeah,
Because-
I'm sure.
No, they were the ones.
Okay.
The older women, they were the one that was so happy for me because they said, they used to call me by my nickname, Baby. If your mother was here now, she would be so proud. You've made us all proud. And see, they were telling the truth because when they say, you've made us all proud, they meant it. The men didn't say anything, but it was men, and I understood the men. But I understood now how the women were such a different. God created women different to a large extent anyway. And so they really were the ones. And until the last of the older ladies died, my sister said that woman would always ask about me. She probably was close to 100, and she was, to my knowledge, the last of the older people in that area who went away.
What was about the largest time frame in which you probably did not go back to New Roads once you got on your track of doing where it had just been years? What was that that time frame of that largest period of not going back?
That's a good question because when I went back, I only went back and visit the family, so I didn't spend time in the city. So you're looking at 10 years. I only went back and saw the family and went back, and it was when I was coaching, but I only, my wife and I and the son, we would go and visit, but we would go to my sister's house and the family would congregate, and that would be it.
For you, when you with your son and, you explained the humble beginnings,
He's never seen me struggle the way I struggled. You got me? So he doesn't understand. Again, if people don't see, it's hard to believe. You see? And he believes what he sees. His dad never struggled, in his opinion.
That story reminds me, this past summer, I was up in Chicago visiting my family, my grandmother and uncles and everybody, and all of my family, and it's about 15 minutes, so you got that whole little area right there, but it's in the Delta. There's not much opportunity, especially during those times. And your story is similar to what I was listening to my Uncle Nelson, who retired in Chicago, and my grandmother and all of her brothers and sisters all moved from down there. But my Uncle Nelson, I had an opportunity just to really get an opportunity to just listen to. There was a white guy who basically owned all the farmland, right? He was the big time guy, but he hired the black guys, and he said, man, he's probably paying us 15 cents a day, something crazy, But when you don't have no opportunity, you didn't know. But he said, I guess it was a difference because he gave me a little bit more leeway, so I was the one able to do things differently, drive the truck while everybody had to ride in the back of the truck. So he said, if I was comfortable, I would have felt like I was, he said, sitting on high cotton, right? Because I was the one being accepted by being able to do different things. But he said there was something in me that just told me this not for me. Although it may seem like he may be in a higher position than everybody else in the community, that just wasn't for him as a lifestyle, right?
Right.
And he said, what happened, he enlisted and went to Vietnam, and he came back, and after the war, after having traveled and been, he said, man, I just realized how slow things were.
Yeah.
So he, off of faith and hope and a prayer, went to Chicago. He was the first one, and when he went, he opened the door and basically called back down to everybody else like, hey, this is where we need to be. Right. So my grandmother and all her brothers and sisters, once they all graduated high school, they jetted out. They went to Chicago. Got a couple aunties that stayed around. They went to, at the time, UAPB was called AM&N College, and Branch Normal. But they stayed, but then when they got their degrees, they jetted out, and so they went on up, but it was just good to hear. And it's listening to your story, it's that similar story of there was no script on how this was going to go. It was no blueprint. It was trial and error, but you had to want it because now when he goes back, he does not even like to go back to Lake Village. When he goes back, he's just like, he enjoys to visit, but, my grandmother for sure. Unless it's a funeral of somebody she knew from back then, she just absolutely does not go back. And I was asking you about that time frame. I think at one time there were years and years that had went by that, they just ultimately didn't go back in because it was the memories and it was certain things. The memory
was not good. 3 weeks ago, I did go back to the spot where I was born. Nothing is there anymore. Everything is gone. They built some really beautiful homes and everything on. But I found the spot because I remember the tree across the street that was across, and I parked there, and I reminisced and said, this is where the house was, and this is where I did that about 3 weeks ago. And those memories are always not good.
Yeah.
Because you gave so much, and even though I was able to get out, I just thought about my father and mother and their parents and the generation after generation who worked that land for free. Just think about it, man. All of the things, hours and hard work and good that they did it for nothing. And I was able to break that cycle. I broke a cycle that was vicious, that my daddy didn't know anything else and he was trying to hold on. But he saw something in his son that was more powerful than what the white man had over, that curse he had over them. He saw something in me that was more powerful. And it was a desire to succeed and do better. And he allowed me to go.
And I think the other thing, like my aunt, my grandmother, and my uncles, what they talk about is, when they go back and you see how life treated those that did stay around. Some of them fell victim to just the environment. For you, is that tough sometime when you go back and you kind of just see those people that you knew?
They're not around. That place doesn't exist anymore.
Okay.
Everybody is gone.
Yeah.
Either they're dead or they moved. So it's, and I talked to my sister, it's probably 2 or 3 families that's still there. That's all. Everybody else is gone.
So it doesn't even, when you go back, when you say home, you remember where you're from, but it just don't quite have home.
Well,
to
it's not there for nobody anymore. Other than the ancestors of the rich people who took advantage.
And still have the land.
And they have the land. Other than that, there is not one house that's still there that you could see. And I look. And like I said, there was one family who is a relative of ours who father was white. He fathered a couple of kids with a black woman, and he left them some property in their name. That's the only ones who still have houses there. Everybody else is gone.
And that's that part of American history of small town USA, especially in a time where technology wasn't as prevalent it is today. Opportunities weren't as prevalent it is today. And I think a lot of times as you look at small towns around the nation, they have dwindled even smaller from what they were then because of people leaving for opportunities. People, you go off like my uncle did, go off to Chicago and make the call back home and say, hey, this is where we need to be. And then everybody leaves and goes out. And so, when you look at small town USA, it's often forgotten about. I see it all the time driving back to Arkansas. I get a chance to see those areas like a Lake Village, like a Lake Providence, a Tallulah, St. Joseph, Louisiana.
They're dying. And my area is just about, for black people, it's over.
Yeah.
If it's 10 of them that still live there.
And you look around like, man, it's
but it was
tough.
Never a big area.
Yeah.
It was about 200 people or less. But boy, I tell you, it's, it got out of the way in a hurry. Let me put it.
All right, that's a good way to put it, man. I think about it all the time. I call it God's country. When you ride and you got plenty of time to just think. And I think we're so accustomed to the cities and the hustle and the bustle. And, although people may say Baton Rouge is country, it's still a city. It's a big city compared to coming out of New Orleans, Louisiana.
I remember my wife and I went back. We had been married maybe 4 or 5 years, and we went there because, and there was a cousin who owned some land, and my wife said, "Would you sell us a little plot so we could come? I would love to live here, and we could live." And he wouldn't do it. He wouldn't do it, and goes to show you. I was talking with my brother just the other day. He said he died, and the son sold all the property away.
So let me ask you this as we get ready to close out. Are you now more feel like a city guy, or are you still country boy?
I'm a country boy by heart. I mean, I don't like the city. You know, I've been to a lot of cities in this country and in the world. There are a couple of cities in the world that I like, but, you know, I'm a country boy by heart.
But you like the conveniency of a city, huh?
I like it because, there are things you can get done.
You get to go eat your steaks?
I'm not a big steak guy.
Okay.
I'll eat seafood and, you know, obviously when I'm out of the country, seafood is a safe bet, but Italian food is pretty good.
No, I love some Italian food.
Yeah.
Treat me to some Italian food one day, Big Money. Garrett. Well, I ain't no point in asking you. You ain't no country boy at all.
I am not.
Yeah, Garrett.
He's
Not
a
at
big
all.
city man from the Big Easy.
Born and raised in the city. Y'all can have the country.
He don't know. All he knows is concrete. All right, just concrete.
Yeah.
In places that's open. You know, I'm in between. I like them both. I'm all about the. I like the city. I just don't like to be crowded. Right. I don't like the traffic. Right. So that's how it is. Talk about the event. Where is it going to be? What time? And when they expect to see you?
It's going to be at the Scout Center, and I think I'm at 12 o'clock Saturday. So, you know, I'm going rather than I didn't want to do it at night. I asked them not to because I didn't want to have to drive at night. So I asked them if they would go in and let me do it at a 12, and they agreed to do it.
Roger Cador headed back home to New Rose to be able to speak about the Rosenwald School and how important that was in terms of education of African Americans during a time in which education was kind of frowned upon in the African American community by white folks, right? So
yes, sir.
To be able to get that opportunity, education changed your life, it changed mine, as well as changed Garrett's. But then at the end of the day, because it was a place that we chose to get our higher learning in terms of education, Southern, it brought all three of us together. And now here we are, being able to do the show. And if you want to learn more about Coach Cador's story, be sure to get his book, Against All Odds. You can check it out. Be able to go down on his Facebook page. Follow him at Roger Cador on Facebook. You can get more information. Aaron will have all of that information for you guys on there. But Against All Odds gives you a deeper look and perspective into the life of Coach Roger Cador, coming from a humble beginning around New Rose, Louisiana, and now being all over the world, all of these Hall of Fames, all the honors. You have a Roger Cador Day? How many Roger Cador days do you have?
Every day. Every day. Hey, want to say shout out to Johnny Johnson out there. Thanks for listening, and hopefully we're giving you some good information.
And for everybody else, be sure to hit that subscribe button right down underneath the video. Be sure to go back, watch any of the previous episodes, and you'll get that notification next time we go live. So on behalf of us here, I want to thank my man on the board, Garrett Edgerton. Coach, as always, I want to thank you. And I want to thank myself as well. Always good to thank yourself when you look in the mirror. But it has been another great episode of Chopping It Up with Cador. I hope you guys catch us next week as we're going to continue to keep this thing going. And as always, we thank you for your support. Coach, get us up out of here.